Okay, so I had no intention of making another jelly roll quilt, but I stumbled upon this pattern and I am a sucker for pre-cuts and scrappy looking quilts, so here we are. You'll need 2 jelly rolls to get a 58 by 64 inch quilt. I could not find the jelly rolls that they originally used in the pattern, so I just kind of like went on the hunt to find one with a similar color scheme and then also like a similar distribution of the colors. Obviously, you could find a jelly roll that has like a totally different color scheme and just totally make it your own, but I kind of like the way that the original one looked, so I found one that was somewhat similar, and I am very happy with how it's turning out so far, and I absolutely love the patterns in this jelly roll. And basically, you're just cutting up like a ton of triangles, and you're going to have them organized mainly by color, and obviously the pattern tells you like exactly how many to cut of each color to get what you need, and then you'll end up with just a bunch of extras that you use to kind of create that scrappy look all around like the outer edges of the quilt. You will end up with some extra strips at the end. I think I might use those to create like an extra border around the outside of the quilt, but TBD, I'm not there yet. I did try laying everything out on my kitchen counter. It was not even close to being large enough, so I had to move to the floor, which was a little bit of a hassle because I know my dog looks really sweet and innocent sleeping there, but she became a total menace. I was wrestling rectangles out of her mouth. She was walking all over everything. I had a little moment of a mini meltdown, but my God, she's cute. She makes up for it. I do wish I could have had like spent more time looking at it once I had it all laid out and rearranging some of the rectangles around. But honestly, I was stressed because my animals were driving me absolutely nuts. So I just had to get everything like organized into their little piles and then start sewing. Like I could not just keep this on my floor. It would have been a mess. I do try and keep it like super organized for this part. I may have misplaced a rectangle or two here and there and had to seam pick them and redo them, but all in all, it turned out okay. I have all of these columns ready to be ironed and then sewn together. This is part 2 of working on the Kings Valley Jelly Roll quilt from Andover Fabrics. It's a totally free pattern. You can download it from their website. I do have the pattern and all the fabric I'm using linked in a blog post, but you can also just do a quick Google search and it should pop right up. After getting the quilt top kind of laid out, it was time to just piece together all of the rectangles for each column. This part is really straightforward. For me, it's just really about staying organized. I did not want to have rectangles misplaced and then try to kind of refigure it all out later because it is such a scrappy looking quilt. I just knew that would be hard. So I actually safety pin each column number to the top rectangle or square of each column. And I am pressing all of my seams open. I know. Please don't yell at me. I'm new enough to quilting that I still can't figure out why that's so triggering for people. There are no seams to nest on the whole quilt top. So for me, it was just to like reduce bulk. And yes, it was more time intensive, but I like it that way, okay? And because there are no seams to match up or nest, sewing each column together is pretty straightforward. I do kind of clip it together just to make sure the length is the same from end to end. But yeah, eventually you'll be sewing the two halves of your top together and then you will have a completed quilt top. Now this is the point where the pattern stops and it gives you about a 64 by 58 inch quilt top. You can definitely stop here. Like I mentioned on my last video, you need 2 jelly rolls for this pattern, but there's a lot of strips left over. I also have a ton of rectangles that I had already cut that are left over. So I think I'm gonna do kind of a scrappy looking border, one to just kind of make use of the fabric I have left over, and 2, like I would love to get a little bit of a bigger size. I think I can squeeze in 2 rows of a border, so let me know what you think. Unless, of course, you hate the idea, then you can just keep it to yourself. Okay, love you, bye. Hello, and welcome to part 3 of working on the Kings Valley Jelly Roll quilt. We last left off on me planning to make a scrappy border out of all the leftover jelly rolls I had, and a couple of people in the comments suggested that I first add a solid color border to like really make the design pop and then add a scrappy border, and I was like, you know what? Yes, that sounds like a great idea. I knew immediately that I wanted it to be one of the dark brown colors from the quilt, so I just bought some yardage of one of the kind of more neutral browns. And even though my original plan was to add this border and then add a scrappy border, once I got the brown on and looked at it, I was like, I think it's done. I was very torn, but I loved how it looked, and most of you agreed that I should just leave it as it is. So here is the final quilt top. Now the original pattern does not include a border, but I really think it makes the design pop so much. I'm obsessed. I love it. And now it's quilt sandwich time. You'll notice the backing fabric does not match the border that I added. That's because I bought the backing when I had no idea that I was going to add a border, and I don't think it matters. I love it how it is. Now it's time for the actual quilting. I like adding a table behind my machine to just kind of help with the weight of the quilt. I also put together like a little mini quilt sandwich to test my tension and play with the wavy line. And then to quilt this, I just used kind of the edge of my presser foot as a guide and ran it down lengthwise down all of the columns on either side of the seam, stopping every once in a while to bury all these threads. And I was loving how it looked at this point, but I was going for max crinkle factor, so I just kind of eyeballed it and ran my presser foot again just through the center of each column. I love how it turned out, and then I did also add some lines around the border, and the last step will be binding. This is the fourth and final part of my Kings Valley Jelly Roll quilt, and I am serging this quilt. I had to test it out first before doing it on the big quilt because I'm still a little bit scared of my serger. I take no credit for this. I saw someone else do it. They said it's like way easier to attach your binding. You can also just directly attach your binding to the quilt at this step. I will work my way up to that maybe next time. I also now much prefer just serging my quilt to like trim it up at the end instead of getting out like my cutting mat, a rotary cutter, and squaring it up that way. But now we're on to making a scrappy binding. I just took all of the leftover jelly roll strips I had, cut them into varying lengths, and then just stitched it all together to create one ginormous roll. This is way more than what I need for the binding, but when I was doing this, I was thinking that I was going to be using all of the scrappy strips to do more of a border. Anyways, look how nice that all looks with the serged ends. The binding was just nice and crisp. This was my second time attempting to glue baste my binding to the quilt. The first time I found it horribly messy. The second time it's still really messy, but just less horribly so. I think I need practice. And guys, I think I'm done machine binding at this final step. I'm going to try hand binding it next time because it just always looks like shit no matter what. But still 10 out of 10 for the serging. But here she is all done. I'm obsessed. I think she looks fantastic. It's so nice and crinkly. What do we think? Have to get the dog's opinions, of course. There's a little peek at how shitty my binding looks from the back, but she's gorgeous from the front. If you have any questions about the fabric I'm using or need help finding the pattern, but if you just Google Kings Valley Jelly Roll Quilt, it should pop right up. You can go check out my blog. I have everything linked there. Okay, love you. Bye.